Hey everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here. This is going to be fun. I think I'm going to be talking about AI, which I've grown to love. And the title of this, I actually stole a little bit from Dr. Strangelove, which is kind of obscure maybe, but it's how I learned to stop worrying and love the AI. And it's really, that was my whole journey with it. And I'm loving it now. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. And then at the end, if there's some time, well, there will be some time. If you have any questions, let me know. Happy to answer anything either about what I'm doing, the ethics about it, what you guys can do as designers and artists and all that using AI. And even if you have questions how to get into it, great. And if there's more time, I will go in. I mostly use Midjourney, and I'll talk about why if we get it time to go into it and we can start like creating stuff, you can tell me what to make. So I'm going to get into it now. Let me share my screen. Okay. Like I said, this is all about how really my journey into AI, which includes becoming a creator. And now I help people, help agencies, help brands bring AI into their workflow for inspiration and just changing things up. And as timelines change in our industry, it helps that process along too. So that's what I do. These are some things that people call me: dad, husband, ex-photographer. That's important to this. Creative leader, troublemaker, and world builder. Wesley covered a couple of those. Troublemaker is probably the main one, to be honest, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But this is why I hear a little bit of that: creative leader, troublemaker, and the world builder, and I'll explain all that kind of stuff. So first, AI. You know, I'll go back even further to digital photography. When it first came out, people would say things like, "It's not real photography. It lacks the layers of film. Anyone could take a good picture if they have a digital camera, and it's really just for hacks." And then the next thing to come along in this world of designers and artists that was a disruptor was Photoshop. And you heard the same thing: Photoshop is cheating. It's for bad photographers to take their bad photos and make them look good. It's really, you should learn how to develop. You should learn how to light. You should learn how to take good pictures. You don't need Photoshop. And these are things that I heard. And honestly, I started as a photographer. I was weary of digital photography at work. At first, it didn't look as good. And then once it kind of got good, it was cheating in a way. Same with Photoshop. It took me a while to get into Photoshop. I felt I didn't understand it because honestly, I hadn't played with the tool. And I was like, yeah, why can't you just take a nice photo, and why can't you light well? You don't need Photoshop. But then I learned how to use it, both of these, and I love both, and I saw why they were both important. And we're seeing here in the same conversation around AI. AI, it's not art. It's just pushing buttons. Anyone could do it. It's cheating at its best, and it's worse. It's theft, and it's dangerous. It can be dangerous. I will talk about that a little bit. I don't think it's theft, and I can get into that as well. But this is what happens when new technology comes around. People push back. People are scared. It's new. They don't understand it. They might fear that their job's going to be taken away. I know, when digital photography came around, film processors were like, "Oh, I'm going to be out of a job." And most of them are. But also, I do a lot of photo shoots, and in every photo shoot I'm in, there's what we call digital tech, and it's somebody sitting behind a computer and with the camera logged into it, and they're doing the tweaks, making sure everything looks good. So now, instead of having a handful of people at a film lab, at each photo shoot, you have another person. So yes, some jobs went away, but more were actually created with it. We're doing more retouching with Photoshop than we were doing before, and Photoshop's not just for retouching; it's for literally creating amazing things. So it didn't take away jobs. net, in my opinion. And I think AI will be the same. I don't think it's going to take jobs away. I think people are scared right now, at least as far as the art goes. It might change jobs. And there's something that people talk about a lot, and I should say AI probably won't take your job, but somebody who knows how to use AI will. And I'm just got into this, but I do want to take a little bit of a tangent. I don't know how many of you have used AI before, but one of the things when you use AI art, they talk about the hands. The hands are not very good. They're very weird. And the reason that is, and I thought that it was interesting because I saw it in these two photos, the reason that hands are weird in AI is because look at the guy on the left. That's the guy with the first digital camera. The way he's holding that camera is very weird. And you first look at it, you don't think that there's anything wrong, but the way the hands are very weird. And to understand what a hand is, the machine learning has to learn what a hand, and it learned that that's somebody holding something. And it's not the only image that the modeling used, but images like this, it's, when somebody's holding something, hands look like this. So that's why you get this image on the right, which is AI, and it's got weird, wonky hands. It's just a little thing we can talk about later, but once you learn why AI does things and doesn't do things, you'll learn how to make your images better. I just thought that was interesting for anyone who's played and knows about the 6 fingers. And I'm going to take you through this presentation. It's 3 different acts. The first one is how I got into AI. I'm going to literally take you from the first image I created to what I'm doing now, a project I'm working on. The second, I'm going to talk about some of the ethics on AI. There's a ton to it. There's 2 things that I specifically talk about. And then last, I'm going to show you guys how you can bring AI art, especially when I say AI in this world, I'm talking more about art. There is amazing things with language too. I'm going to tell you how you can bring it into your workflow just to add to another tool, because I feel that once you guys graduate, you're going to be using it all the time. So first one I call a world that I didn't know existed. And like I said before, I started as a photographer. That's how I got into what I'm doing right now, which is creative directing. And I really started when I was 15. Wesley and I were just talking about biking. I was a BMXer, and I was at a camp for BMX, and I broke my shoulder for the 3rd time in my first week. And so I picked up a camera and I started shooting. And in a way, I wish I could have found like the great shots that I've done, but maybe these are better shots to show you, because this was truly the style and what I love. And it was really just going around and shooting my friends and shooting people I was around and doing it in a very photojournalistic style or a street photography style, just finding people and not posing, just capturing a moment. And that's what I really did. And I worked, got jobs doing this. You can see Sean White's on the upper left. So I photographed him, but I still kept that aesthetic and that feeling of, I'm just going to put you where you are, and I'm not going to pose you, and I'm going to, take your photo. And that really is my style. And you'll see how that became what I'm doing now. So this is where I began. But at some point, I graduated, I moved, I stopped shooting. A couple of things happened. I loved film. I just talked about digital photography. Everything was moving to digital, and I lagged on that. Also, the image on the bottom left, that guy, he was a creative director that I photographed for a magazine. And we had a long conversation after that shoot, talking about what he did and what I do and what I wanted to do. And he was the first person to say, I don't think you want to be a photographer. I think you want to be an art director, designer. Maybe you should look at a new career. And then somebody else said the same thing to me. So I wound up going from photography to designer, and then art director and creative director. And with that change, I was still doing really creative things, but I put my camera down for a really long time. And it's because I couldn't really find a muse. And I tried, I'll go back here. I tried many things. I tried to paint I did silkscreen shirts. I did letterpress shirts. I did everything, and I never found that thing that was that art that really spoke to me until AI came around, which was a big span between this and that, probably about 20 years. And when AI came around, I started with this app called Starry Eye. You can download it for your iPhone. It's probably on Android as well. And this is the first image I made with it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anything about it. I wanted to get into some of the other, I think Midjourney was around maybe in the beta. And I was just like, okay, mouse with a pineapple. I have no idea why I did that. I like pineapple. I like mice. But I wanted to see what that would create. And you can see, this is literally about a year ago. I think it was actually maybe a year and 3 months, December of 2021 was when I made this. It's not good. You can see maybe a little bit of a mouse face in there. You can see the color of pineapple. You can see some green. But this is what, was being created at the time. This is all you could do. Then I tried, self-portraits, put my name in there, Kenny Friedman, and the things in parentheses are like little things that you could push as far as styles. So on the first one, I pushed 8K 3D steampunk, right? I have no idea what Sturm und Drang was, but it was I think it's a German expressionism or something. But I just clicked a button and said, oh yeah, I want it in that style. I love Paul Klee, so I did that on this one. This is self-portrait for lack of a better word. Just playing around. Nothing's looking good. Then Bored Apes were really hot, so I was like, hey, why don't I make some AI Bored Apes? And I was like, I will make a ton of these, and then I'll make them as NFTs and make billions of dollars. I never did either of those things, but I was doing Bored Apes for a while. And then what stuck was I put my name in again and hyperrealism. And I got this image. And this image is incredibly gross. It's incredibly real. It's incredibly interesting. And it really spoke to me in a weird way. And this image is what got me hooked on AI. And I would start creating a bunch of these. So the person on the left, the image on the left was my associate creative director, her name with that hyperrealism. The next one was my project manager. And these are all people I work with. And I would be in meetings and I would be on the app and I would be creating just their name with the hyperrealism. And that really is, like I talked a bit ago, this really was pushing buttons. There wasn't a lot of effort into it. And when I talk about AI art in general, I talk about it's a spectrum. It's everything from low effort things where you just pop a couple words in to people really thinking about the words that they're going to do and the process that they get from the first image to the final image. This kind of thing where you're just popping a word in, I look at like almost like paint a pot. It's low effort, it's fun, it's creative, but it's not necessarily art with a capital A. The people that spend a lot of time in crafting what they're doing, I put them, on the end of the spectrum. But this was fun, and oddly, even though it's weird and grotesque, and a lot of people hate it, it got me into AI because I realized that you can create things that were mistakes. And Wesley talked about fail good. I am a huge fan and advocate of mistakes and what you can get out of them. And honestly, I wish I could paint because I would be painting these other things. So that's what got me hooked. But then, January 23rd, 2022, June 23rd, 2022, I got this email. And it was that I got into the beta for Midjourney. And when we look at AI art, there's three popular programs, I guess, for lack of a better word, to use. Midjourney is one of them. Stable Diffusion is another. And then DALL-E is the third. And there are things like Starry Eye. There's things like Dream Booth, which allows you to use DALL-E or Stable Diffusion or something else. But the big ones are Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and DALL-E. DALL-E I had played with. It didn't do anything for me. The images, I think, still are not that great. Stable Diffusion, interesting. It doesn't give me the kind of images that I want. Also, to really go deep into it, which you can go amazingly deep into it, it's very confusing, and you can't do it on an Intel Mac. And I have an Intel Mac. You need either a M1 chip or a PC. But I was so happy to get this email that I was in Midjourney, because this meant I can start creating all the cool things that I was seeing on LinkedIn and Instagram and all that. So oddly enough, so this is June 23rd. My first image that you'll see in a second that you might have just saw, I didn't create until July 3rd, and I'm not sure what happened in between. I don't know why it took me a week and a half, but I did go back and see my first image, and this one was it. So this is July 3rd of 2022. Again, I started with something weird. The prompt I use, and the prompt is the thing that you type into the box to get what you want, was spider with a cat head dancing with a frog in a cartoon style. I have no idea why I picked that. I think I was trying to see what it could do, trying to break it or something like that. Most people apparently, when they start off, they do cat. But this is what I put in, and this is what I got. And for some reason I stuck with it. And literally this, so I'll take another little thing. This is what you got in July 3rd, 2022, when you put that spider with a cat head dancing with a frog in cartoon style. So that's what you get. If you were to pop that in now, this is what you get. So the jump that we've gone through, and the version of Midjourney that the one on the left was version 2. The version of Midjourney that's on the right is version 4, which is the current version of Midjourney. Very soon, maybe within weeks, I missed the office hours on Midjourney. They're already talking about version 5 and saying it's so far beyond. So that's mind-boggling, the speed at which things are getting better and better and better. And when I get to the second portion, I think it's really important as designers and artists and people with ethics to know that as fidelity gets better, there's possibly going to be more and more problems. So I think that was interesting going from there to there. But I created some other images. I don't know why I did cyberpunk. I like cyberpunk movies, but I was like, cyberpunk, I don't know exact prompt, but that's what this is. It looks like it was cyberpunk lo-fi beats to study to neon cyberpunk. I have no idea why I picked that. Maybe I just literally copy and pasted. I think it's kind of cool, but not my thing. Went back to Paul Klee. I really like him. So this prompt here was 3 cats dancing with an alien in the style of Paul Klee. When the things that you're seeing here, I will say, for those who haven't played with AI or Midjourney specifically, usually when you put a prompt in, you get 4 images, and then you decide which you want to upscale or version or do a lot of different things to. That's why you see 4 a lot. This one I upscaled. This one I never did. So it's not clicking. Oh, and I also did my son. He's a drummer. He's got blonde hair, and I did him. The fidelity wasn't great. This is still version 2. Mind-boggling that it could take an image, and I'll show you how it does that a little later on. But it could take words and make it an image. But not great yet. I could have upscaled and done some other things to them to make them better, but they would have never gotten to what they're looking like now. So that was all on July 3rd. I did a couple others, and this is a story that I've told now 2 people, and I didn't tell my wife until an hour ago. She knew that this happened, but the next day the world changed in my area. I live in Highland Park, Illinois, and I don't know how many people remember the name of that city, but on July 4th of 2022, there was a mass shooting during a parade in my neighborhood, and I just kind of shut down when that happened. I stopped creating for a while. I was so in my head, so reading the news, and going through putting all my time into work because I didn't want to think. that I really didn't take time to sit and create, because then I would have been in my own head. And it took me literally a month, not literally a month. I didn't get back to creating until August 1st of that year. So I took a month off of uh, doing AI and probably any art at all. And when I came back to it, I did what everybody was doing. I did Nike shoes. One difference between the July 3rd stuff and the stuff on August 1st is we went from version 2 of Midjourney to version 3. I'm not sure what got better, because you can see these aren't great. But then if you upscale these, people were able to do really nice things with shoes and everything. They were doing mind-boggling things with these. I didn't understand how they were doing it because I didn't get there, but I also didn't upscale a lot and play, because one of the things about AI art is not a lot of people teach you how to do it unless you go into Reddit or you go into some of the communities. So you're kind of just like playing around and you don't really know what to do. Now there's more videos and things like that, but at the time you were kind of on your own. So shoot, Nike shoe. Then I also started just doing weird stuff. I would make these weird candy creatures. I'm not really sure why, but I started making these little things, and at least I was stuck and finally like enjoying it again. This was probably mid-August. I went back to Cyberpunk for some reason and it did bunnies. And again, I have no idea why I chose bunnies or Cyberpunk. I think I just wanted to see what it can do, and taking two things that didn't necessarily go together and putting them together and see what the software can do. And then, kind of a mistake happened, or an accident, I guess. And like the fail good thing that I talk about, I think mistakes can often be the best thing to happen to us. And what I did is I saw on LinkedIn, somebody had created this really cool character that was a cartoon character at a theme park. And I was like, that's really cool. And I tried to recreate that with the words that, came to mind when I looked at it. And I created these four guys. And there was something really cool about them that were different and spoke to me. And again, I was in a weird state of mind still. And I did put gloomy in the prompt. Maybe that's why it spoke to me. But this guy especially, he really spoke to me. And I finally understood when an author says, I need to tell the story of my characters, because I saw him and there was something about him. And I decided it was a him. And that he needed a place to live. And just where my head was at, I realized I needed a place to get lost in. And I probably should say, I should probably take the words I realized I needed a place to get lost in. I needed a place to get lost in. I honestly didn't realize it until recently, as I'm working on the story of what I'm about to show you in the world that I created. I didn't realize that Kenny, needed a place to get lost in. I was just got lost in it. And so what I did is I told his story, and I created an Instagram account, and I said, made these people up. And I love things like the Instagram account Humans of New York. I'm not sure if any of you guys know that, but it's really cool. He goes around and he takes photos of people and asks them about themselves, and they tell him, really deep stories. And I was like, that could be cool if I just create this world and I pretend to interview the people, and you don't know who I am, running the accounts, and you don't know if I'm a creature, you don't know if I'm a human. And that's what I did. I told their stories, and the stories that I was telling at first were really people that I grew up with. This is based on Professor B. It's kind of mysterious. I started going this mysterious world, but the whole idea is that he knew like everything. And what I did is I took his words and the way he spoke out of this homeless guy from this area that I grew up in. who everybody loved and took care of, and helped out, um, because he knew everything about this whole neighborhood that we lived in, for years, and could tell you all these great stories. And I felt like he needed to become this guy. There was something about him when I looked at him. I was like, that's Benny. So that's my ode to him. And then I tell more of their stories, and you can see like he's, not perfect. He's very like, tattered, I guess, frizzy, right? And this guy, this was one of the first guys that I put up, and he's, again, he looks disheveled, and I think that's what I needed at the time. And I, made him up to be like an old university librarian who loves the smell of old books. Um, and I would just decide where to go. Like when I talked about the photo that I used to do and the street photo that I used to do, I would go hang out with my friends, and I'm like, I'm going to just sit here. You guys hang out. I'm going to sit here all night, and I'm going to take photos of what's going on. Or I would go downtown and I would take photos. I'd just sit in a place, and that's what I did with these. Is I would decide like, where do I want to go? I want to go to a club. I want to go see a show. I'm going to put my little weird creatures in a show, and show them. Or I'm going to put them this is more of a portrait, put them in the street, and uh, that's why I showed the imagery that I started with, because I feel that this project I'm doing is really just an extension of what I've always done, captured people, in this case, things, in environments, and really caring more about that person or entity or weird creature that we're looking at than anything else. And it's all about them. So I, created a bunch of guys, and this was another one I did. And what I realized is like literally these people are all me. Like I said, some were influenced by friends, but a lot of them became me. Like I think going into this one, I knew this was literally me because I'm a creative director, and I say things like, what he says is, on my wall, I have a piece of art that says, I'm trying not to have this concept go default into mediocrity. And that's something I say a lot at work, because sometimes when you're working in our industry and people make changes, they make so many changes that the things become vanilla. So I was like, this is all me. I want to put me out there, right? But this is me too. This was all about living in the moment. Just looks a little bit different. And I just went through and I started telling the stories of all these weird little creatures. And this one's about like, not being stagnant. And what I love about this is, it's us, that's very real. Everybody looks different. Part of my thought behind this is like, we all look different. We all are different. We have different abilities, but we're all amazing. And really, that's the story I wanted to tell. Is like, it doesn't matter if you're, cute little maybe frog-like guy made of plaid, or a one-eyed weird creature, or a little knit mom. This became a mom when I created this image. I saw that she, to me, looked really nervous, and I had created this a couple of days before another incident in my neighborhood. So that's what I spoke to this one. I made her uh, wait for her kid, because some things were going on in his neighborhood, and he was trying to get out. And I, talked about like FPO, which is, I call this place FPO. And that comes from for position only, for placement only. It's a design term that's used less now, but it's important to me in general. I have it tattooed on my arms, but also it is a philosophy that we're only here for a while. So we're impermanent, so we should make sure that we leave life good. So I felt like this whole world, it's impermanent. I can never create these guys again. And it's all about like creating a world that's better than where we're at. And these guys are just weird and different. And I have what I call like little races. So, she's made of wool, made of, knit, kind of like sock puppety. I'm not really sure. And I try to create these guys and show weird diversity in the way that they look, and all that, and tell their stories. It's as much of writing project to me as it is an art project. And that's one of the things I love about AI art is it doesn't just have to be about that thing that you create. I'm seeing a lot of people create new worlds, new cool worlds out of nothing and telling the stories, in different ways. So that's what this is all about. Like, what is this? This is a food critic. Oh, this image. I wanted to play. Sometimes I get stuck. I didn't do the math when I started doing this. I try to post one every day. In the beginning, I post sometimes 2 or 3. Posting an image every day isn't the problem, although it is hard to get my guys. Unlike some of the new stuff, it really does take a long time to get some of the features I like looking good. And that said, like if I have to write a different story for each one, that's 365 a year. That's a lot. And my wife will catch me. She'll be like, "You said the same exact thing about somebody else like a week ago." So I thought to myself, like, what would happen if I used Chat GPT and I brought in, made it all AI? Could I do that and could it work? And no, the answer to me was no. It fell flat. I don't think Chat GPT is good writing. But it did make, like when I said make a character like this, it did make a character who was a food critic. So I was like, oh, I'll kind of like riff off the idea of food critic. So I made this person a food critic. So the AI in my stuff is just the art. And it's fun. Everybody's really different and cool. And I kind of love what it's creating. Again, a guy, I decided like, hey, what if I was in a bakery and I talked to people, and it's stuff that I used to do. Like I would never go up with my camera to somebody right now in a bakery and say, can I take your photo? Back in the day, I would. I don't know why I wouldn't do it now. I have friends who do that. But to me, this is kind of more interesting because I get to tell their story. So these are the guys that I'm creating. And then also, I don't think you're going to be able to hear the audio on this, but like I created these, I decided like, what if I were to go to like a club and I could make them dance? So I have fun with this little world that I've created, and little dancing night, little roller skating, and just bringing that fun of this world. And I'm trying to create this world. And for a while, and I guess I still do, I have about 8 accounts tied to these various accounts. One is a printer, one is makes blown glass, one makes wood bird houses, but I realized it takes too much time to have all these accounts. But I was trying to create this whole amazing world of it, and now it's just encapsulated into the one account now. So and it got big. I've been doing this since August or September. It's a lot of guys. These are some of them. All over the board, and I try to bring in fun things like I do, like I had those last 2 where they're videos. Unfortunately, with these guys, to actually make them into video, which is something I'm working on right now, you have to really just go in and make it old school, like old school CGI. My nephew's like making them real, but there's no, you look at a lot of the CG stuff you can do with AI. And take a face and make it talk. You can't really do it with these guys because those programs don't know that they're faces. And also the couple times that I've gotten it to work, it just doesn't work well. And it doesn't feel right. And I want this to be really quaint and fun. So that's my world, but I wanted to show you that, like how much effort and time I put into this. They're not, you can create beautiful things, and I'll show you how you can create beautiful things off of a couple words and off of, and just run it once and you get beauty. But again, with like the thing I like about these guys is it takes time and a process. And this guy took days to get him. I'm going to show you a video in a second. He's about 270 versions from the first guy that I got to him. doing various things where you version things and you re-roll and then you version them again and you version again. So like he'd be like the 250 something generation of that. And this is what it looked like. He started as a white guy with 3 eyes. And I've played with the program so much that I know when I see something that I can take what I'm seeing and get it into another place. And the next video shows you that. I'll just pause it really quick. So this is, that's not, this is where this isn't where he started. This is like 20 rolls in. I never show anybody where I start because where I start, it's kind of proprietary, but this is like 20 guys in. And these are like, this particular video is about 220 versions of that first guy. Just keep playing with it to get to that guy that we just saw. One other one I use in there. So that's what I'm doing with it. And that's the world I created. And this, like I said, this is how I got hooked on AI. And I lived in this world of these weird puppets for a long time. When the new version came out, the new version of Midjourney, the current one, I played with it and I couldn't create these guys and I didn't play with it. And honestly, sometimes when you play in the new version of Midjourney, you create beautiful images, but to me, they're a little bit flat. They don't have soul. And it's hard to explain why, but I look at them like, wow, that's beautiful, but there's nothing to it. That said, some people are making some amazing things that definitely have that soul, but I'm seeing more on the thing where it's like, okay, you put a couple words in, it's not that great, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So now I move to the second act of this presentation, which is with great power comes great responsibility. And I love what you're seeing here. I didn't explain before, the imagine when you're in Midjourney, the way that you create images is you, in Discord, you backslash or forward slash, whatever that slash is, imagine, and then you put in your prompt. And so in this one, I put in with great power comes great responsibility. And I love that this image came out because it's Spider-Man. And it shows one of the problems with Midjourney is because they're modeling after things. And obviously, there's a lot of images out there of Spider-Man in the world. And a lot of those images were tagged with a caption or in the metadata, however that they're finding, however these AI programs look at an image and then find out the words to go with it. They're connected. The words great power with great responsibility is connected to the image of Spider-Man. And that's interesting, but for, if I was Marvel, I wouldn't want a lot of people creating Spider-Man. So that's part of the problem that they're having. And I'll explain now like how the modeling works. I'm not sure how many of you have really played with AI or played with the modeling, but the way it starts is with a seed image. And these are all seed images. This is the first image of, I reran that same prompt, the spider with a cat head dancing with a frog in cartoon style. I reran that. And what it does is it starts with a seed image, and that's what this is. And then it says to this image, the program says, this is a spider with a cat head dancing with a frog in a cartoon style. And what that tries to do is take one step and change that image into a spider with a cat head dancing with a frog cartoon style. And then it looks at what it just created. And then it says, again, this is a spider with a cat head dancing with a frog in cartoon style. And it makes another step and it makes another step and keeps doing this. And that's how it creates the images we see, is there's all these incremental steps and then telling the program what it's creating each way. And that's how it gets the images doing. It's not just going from like seed image to weird thing that I asked it to do. Some people think that it's like Photoshop and that it's like taking a spider head and a cat head and putting it on there. That's not what it does. And like I said before, this is what the image looks like at the end, but this is how that works. So it's seeing that fuzzy image and saying what it is, and it keeps doing that. And so you see in this, what I think is fascinating, it's making choices along the way. So if you look at the upper right one, it's got ears, and all of a sudden those ears are becoming eyes, the black eyes. If you look at the one on the upper left, you see like a more rounded cat head that becomes this weird thing, because it all of a sudden it each time it's making choices. And I've seen these videos, and the reason I had to do this in the old version is because the new version doesn't allow video. But I've seen things change, because I literally, every time I roll, watch the image be created, I've seen genders change. I've seen races change as it's making choices, and it's very interesting. And I think if you watch these, you understand how it works, and you understand that it's not like Photoshop and stuff like that. That said, I do think, and this is what I want to talk about, there is a real problem with copyright. And I know copyright is in the news a lot about, like, can AI art be copyrighted? Like I said, I think there's a huge spectrum of AI art, from that paint a pot to like the master. And I'm not saying I'm a master, but I would probably say the guy that I re-rolled 250 times, there was a lot of human behind that and a lot of choices I made. But something like this, aside the fact that I'm using IP of The Office and an artist's name, there was no effort in it. I just put in poster of Michael Scott in the style of Shepard Fairey. And, you know, I think this is problematic for a couple reasons. First of all, The Office owns Michael Scott. And so, but it knows what Steve Carell looks like as Michael Scott, at least on the bottom ones, you're seeing him a little bit more. And it knows what Shepard Fairey's style is. It also knows, you know, many artists. And I think this is the problem that we're seeing, is the models have been taught, this is Michael Scott, this is Shepard Fairey. Now it's asking me to put it together, and I can do that. And obviously, if I was Shepard Fairey, I wouldn't want people stealing my style in such a low effort way. What I hear from a lot of people on Reddit and such is that all artists learn from other artists. They have forever. This is ridiculous. We should be able to do whatever we want. But there's a difference between me going to paint or silkscreen in the style of Shepard Fairey, and me just putting his name in there and getting it. There's a huge difference, because one involves me learning and one involves the tool learning. And so I wanted to even just play with his name, and I put Shepard Fairey in. I was wondering if I would get him, but I got, you know, art very much in his style. So again, I think it's problematic using his name. And that said, I think therein lies the solution. And it's a solution that's frustrating to me that nobody is talking about. And again, anytime that I bring it up to people that are fans of AI, they get really angry about. But I think we probably will, but should, if we don't, get to a way where we take all artists' names out of the ability to prompt it. So it's already in the modeling. I don't know what we can do about that, but we can make it so I cannot go into Midjourney and put Shepard Fairey. So I can't go and put Mark Ryden. I can't put Mickey Mouse. Like, that's very easy, because they can ban a lot of words. They ban blood. They ban shag because of the English version of it. I was trying to make shag carpet, but I couldn't do that because they banned certain words. So why can't they ban people's names? And I think if they do that, people can still create this style, but they have to learn like they learned with, you know, like when you look at another artist and you draw their style or paint their style or silkscreen style. And I played with that. So what I did is I went and I looked at his work and I said, what is his work? What is that style? And words that you would describe it are things like American propaganda, pop art, strong geometric lines. I'm reading my prompt. Russian constructivism, social realism, Soviet propaganda, American propaganda. And then I put colors and I put graffiti. So I played around with like each word individually and then mashing them up. And these don't necessarily look 100% like a Shepard Fairey, but they look like it, almost like it, right? Inspired by it. And I think there's something to that. Also, it's kind of become my own thing because I don't know how to create him and I shouldn't have to create him. And if you're an artist, you don't want to steal somebody's style. You want to steal it and then make it your own. And I think that's what these kind of do. They create a new thing out of there. And I could probably create my own style, with these. And I think when we look at as far as copyright and what we can do, I would love to see people banning names and then maybe there's an opt-in. So like uh, Disney, for instance, if I was Disney, I wouldn't want people making Mickey Mouse, but maybe for $5 a month, people can make Mickey Mouse. They just don't own copyright of it. I think it's a great way for artists and IPs to do it if there's an opt-in and a licensing thing, almost like Spotify. So that was my experience with copyright. That's one thing I talk a lot about is copyright and how to solve it. Another huge problem with AI in general. And again, this is Midjourney, but I've run this through Dolly. I've run this through Stable Diffusion. I've run it through some of the other things. Is this where you can see all these people are white. Most of them have blue eyes. We know blue is, what's non-dominant, and they're all classically good looking. They're all young. And the way that I got this is I didn't put any of that in. This was my prompt. Portrait photography, detailed face of a person, hyper detailed, realistic photograph, 8K cinematic lighting, HD, movie still, magazine quality. The reality is I didn't have to have half of those words. I could have just put portrait of a person, and I have. The reason I added the extra words is because you get better quality, more photo quality stuff. And I wanted to show it better. But with the problem is like I asked for a person and it's just giving me a white person and a young person and a good looking person and a probably hard to tell with this close up, probably an able person, and that's a problem. And so, I've played a little bit more on this, and I did woman, right? And detailed face of a woman. And it's all, again, young, classically good looking, all white. For some reason, some of them have battle scars, which is, I'm not really sure why that came out in the modeling, but this is the modeling. This is the problem with, it's two things. It's the images that were people modeling is the classic beauty. And it's also deciding what a person is, right? In a way. Because you could add, sorry, this is man, again, we're getting a little bit of an age range in a man, a couple guys with gray hair, but classically rugged, the strong jaw, mostly blue eyes again, very good looking, very symmetrical, and not, beautiful images, but not what we should be getting. I tried non-binary, and again, it's not a lot of diversity in the non-binary. I tried Asian. The interesting thing when you do Asian person is you get mostly men. You do get a couple women. Obviously, they're all Asian. I know that Asian is a more broad term. I've tried this with Korean and Japanese and Malaysian, and I get very similar breakouts, but it would take me forever to go through every ethnicity out there and nationality out there. But I thought it was interesting. Again, you're getting all young people. You're getting probably able people and classically beautiful. Hispanic goes a little bit older, but all good looking. And black person. Every time I roll black person and Hispanic person, I get a man, and I'm not sure why. Because you saw when I did person, I get mostly women, and for Asian, I get mostly men. I don't know what is in the modeling, why that change happens. And there's another one, there's another option in Midjourney, which is called Test P. And every time you run Test P, it's like an older Asian man that looks like he's, maybe first generation or does not live in the States. It's very weird what you get. And the reason I talk about that is I think they need to add diversity into the algorithm, because personally, I think it's weird to say, I had a typo here, I said Asian first, but I think it's weird to say, it's weird in my head to think that when Midjourney wants a person, it thinks black, white. So to get a black person, I have to quantify that person. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's almost saying like, this is a person right here, and this is different than a person, and this is different than a person, and this is different than a person, but because I have to use a word in front of it to get that. I would like to see it. So when I say person, and again, it's only rolling 4 images, but in those 4 images, if you roll it 10 times, get 40 images, you should see some diversity there in age, in ability, in gender, in ethnicity. And I have heard in the office hours on Midjourney that Midjourney 5 will have that. That said, I saw a couple images from Midjourney 5, and so far they're all white people. And I only saw a couple, so I don't know. But the reason I mention it is because two reasons. We're the design leaders. We've probably taken art classes. We know the history, and we're probably going to be the ones using these tools professionally. So we have to know, first of all, how to get diversity in them. But also, if we're working with these tools, we can be the ones speaking up and saying, you guys need to add diversity and get rid of ableism and all that into your images, because we need to have that as the default. And then if I want a white person, I'll say white person, right? I just think it's one of those unconscious biases that they didn't even think about, because this was just a bunch of programmers making this. I don't think they had ethicists. I don't even know if they have ethicists now at Midjourney, from what I've found out. But it seems like a lot of the 3 big ones don't have ethicists. I think OpenAI started to get it. That said, one of the things I did, projects I was working on, and where this comes up, not just when you're doing images of people, is a project that I had, which was a second project to my creatures project, was this thing where I wanted to take these aliens and do a travel thing. Like I was traveling the world, and I was, let's say it's 30 years from now, and aliens are here and we live with them and it's all cool. But I looked at the images I was getting, and aside from 2 of them, everybody in the black background is white. And it became really disturbing to me. Like, I love these images so much. They're really interesting to me, but I had to put the project down because it was saying that you're either white, and if you're not white, you're an alien. And I just thought that was wrong. And I tried to add the diversity into it in various ways, literally just putting the word diversity, because usually if you put the word diversity in, you'll get a better four up of showing a mix of races and ethnicities. But it actually, and then I added, black and Hispanic, it actually made the images worse. And so I just kind of had to put this project away because of it. I'd love to get back to it if Midjourney fixes what it's doing. So when I, have these images on the bottom and the people around the alien are not just white, I would love to get back into this. But now I just thought, like, it's dangerous. That said, one of the beautiful things about AI is it's getting art in the hands of the masses, almost like digital photography did, or maybe more like Flickr. If you guys remember Flickr in the heyday, But it wound up being this awesome community where people would come together, and they weren't great photographers, but they would learn there. And I feel there's the same thing going on with AI. People are learning from people, but I've seen accounts that run things like this, but there's no thought in the person's head that like everybody's white except for the aliens. And I think that's just inherently dangerous and not good. But people aren't thinking that because they don't, again, have maybe the lens that we have, and they don't have the history of art and things like that. So I think it's important for us to speak up when we see things, and when we're creating and when we're working with any of these. And when we start paying commercially probably more money for these programs, I think you can put more pressure on them to change. That said, while that is art, this isn't art. I wanted to try it in ChatGPT and see what it would do with ethnicity, and I do think there's hope. And the reason there's hope is because OpenAI built it in to their ChatGPT. They did not build it in to DALL-E. So I said, can you please describe 4 people for me, what they look like? Thanks. You got to be nice to it. So it gave me this description, 4 people, and it was great. And then I was like, okay, cool. That's not what I'm trying to get at. What's their ethnicity? And I love this answer. As I apologize, I did not include the information about ethnicities of the people described in my previous response. It's important to remember that all people of all ethnicities can have a wide range of physical characteristics. It's not appropriate to make assumptions about someone's ethnicity based on their appearance alone. It's also important to be respectful and not make assumptions about someone's background or identity without their permission. And I was like, that's awesome. But maybe I asked the wrong question. So I wanted to get to it. I was like, okay, I'm just going to be stupid. What color are they? And it just reiterated. It's like, apologizes, my previous response was unclear. I did not include the information about the skin tones of people described because it's not appropriate to make assumptions about someone's identity, ethnicity, based on skin color alone. And I love that. And I reran this yesterday, and I got ethnicity, and I was bummed. And I reran it today, and I got a very similar response to this. And I realized that when I ran it yesterday, I said, can you tell me about 4 fictitious people? And I think because I asked them to be fake in the first one, it was okay with giving me skin tone. When I asked today, it actually responded me saying, hey, these people are fictitious. I'm still not going to give them ethnicity. And I think that's great. So what I'm saying is, like, they built it in there. It can be done with art because it can be done with this. That said, and I just want to talk about, like, when I posted this on LinkedIn, I had somebody come at me and saying, I think this is woke bullshit because was it Maria? Because she had curly hair or something like that. He's like, well, she's definitely black. And I was like, and I went and I screen grabbed a bunch of curly, dark-skinned celebrities for that person to show them that, like, literally he's proving the bias that ChatGPT is trying to get us away from. And then he deleted his comment, which was awesome. So things that you need to think about. Like, I love what OpenAI is doing. Again, they're doing it on ChatGPT. They're not doing it on DALL-E, but hopefully we can get that way with AI as well, because I think it's a big problem. And again, I'm sensitive to it because of just the way I grew up and the way I've learned. I don't think everyone's necessarily trying to create, a eerily racist alien world. I just don't think that they know and they understand that that's what they're doing. So that's some of the ethics of AI, and I'm really happy, like, in questions to go into detail more about, like, what I think about it. But I could be here all day. So Act 3, will take my job. You guys are all in design it to some extent. I'm not sure what you guys are going to do, whether it be product or, graphic or whatever. I know there's many programs, but it's a concern. Is it going to take my job? My gut is no. I do think what it will do is it will make our jobs more important because we can think differently than the AI. I also think that it's going to help us because I've been in, I'm now in the advertising industry, but I've been doing this for like 20 years, and I've seen timelines go from like, hey, show us concepts in 3 months to we need concepts in a week and a half. And I think this AI will help us iterate faster and nail the first round of a creative review quicker. And I'll talk about that in a second. So that's what this is about. But what I love is AI could, again, be that first round of a lot of stuff. So like logo design. If I was going to design a new logo, and I've taught some brands and some agencies how to do this, one of the first, some people go straight to their computer and start designing. If you say, hey, we got to do this for a new car company, this is the demographic, this is what we're going for. Some people will go straight to computer design. Wesley and I are talking about, like, some people will go start drawing. Some people will go to books. Some people will go online for inspiration. The one thing I notice is, again, timelines are getting shorter. What I love about AI is I can go in and I can say, the top second from the left, give me a logo for a death metal band with unicorns, right? I mean, it might be a crazy little logo, but it'll give me a bunch of those and I can iterate off of it and do cool things. The ones on the right of the middle are some, I said, give me a logo of coffee. And I said, give me one that's colorful for the bottom one. Give me one that's simple for the top one. The one on the upper right actually is like, give me a 3D one. Then what I could do is I can ask it for all these things, and I can look at the brief of what we're supposed to be doing, and I could create a bunch of stuff, and then I could put it up on my wall, and I can look and I can see what's speaking to me and what I want to then create from that. I wouldn't necessarily take, although I will show you like how you can take something literally and make it from there. If it was my team, I would say don't take an exact thing you see here and recreate it, although you probably can. But like, I love that coffee one that's, I don't know if you see my pointer, but like the upper left and upper right middle and bottom right middle. I think those are really cool. And those would inspire me to create something. So I would put those in the bucket where like, hey, I'm going to take this and I'm going to, do something like that. I love the two on the left. That looks very filmy, and I wanted to do something old school. Like, the words don't mean anything. Midjourney is terrible with words. Stable Diffusion's getting better with them. That's not, some of those aren't even English letters, but I can take that, that look and that feel and that energy, kinetic energy. And these are words that I put in the one upper left. I put like old school, retro, and kinetic energy, and that's why you're seeing all that. I can put that together and I can say that's inspiring me. I like the color palette. I like some things that are going on, and then I can create logos from that. And what it's done is it's saved me a lot of time, either on that, looking at that blank screen that's white, or going through books, which I still love doing. But to me, it's more fun to play with Midjourney and play there and then start designing. And I will say that, like, I do like one of these a lot, and I just wanted to see like what would happen. Is it easy to like recreate something? You could just like literally go in Illustrator, and if you do want to literally recreate something you see, and then put in actual type and make a new coffee brand. But I still would tell my team members not to do that. I would say take what you like there. If you're liking energy, if you're liking the gradient, whatever, take what you like and go make something new. It's amazing for product design and packaging. I was working with a brand last week to help them learn how to use it for the packaging. That's what you're seeing on the right. Everything from like car care products, like how can we think differently if we get some new stuff, to like even displays. And we were talking about the one on the upper right, like that's a really cool display that we wouldn't have thought about, but we put words in that made sense for what they're doing, and we put materials in, and we got this thing that we might not have thought about, and we got it really quickly, so we could then be inspired by that and then create new from it. And it's still, I don't think it's taking away any of the value that we offer, because we're still editing. And then we still have to make it real, and we have to bring the reality to it. There's a lot wrong with it, and there's a lot that can be added to it that's cool, that can make it really cool. And the team seemed to be into it as well. We played with lamps also. Like if you were a product designer and wanted to do a lamp and you just needed that inspiration, you didn't want to go and look at the magazines and see what someone else is doing, because then you're inspired by something that exists. And while Midjourney and Stable Diffusion and DALL-E are all also inspired by something that already exists, none of these really do. So if you look at them for inspiration, you're going to create something net new because you're not looking at something that exists. So I think that's a huge thing that you can do with it, to iterate and to make the design process kind of really fun. Another thing is like I said, I had a bunch of accounts. One of my other accounts was a poster design, but like you could again have fun and be inspired and create new stuff. And I wouldn't tell somebody to like go make this weird skull rat and take it exactly. But if that's your style, like then go draw that, and then you have something new that you can do. And I'm seeing a lot of artists do that. They have their style and they're like, I just don't know what I'm going to do. And they iterate in the Midjourney for a while, and then they will be inspired by something to see, and then they'll do that in their style. So great value there. Web design too, it does web really well. And I was working with, you can see on the right, I was working with a hospitality brand, and we wanted to really quickly see, like, do we want high end? Do we want this? Do we want that? And we did a bunch of stuff in Midjourney, and we figured out like high end simple was where they were going. It's actually not on here, but we were able to put a lot of things on the wall really quickly and find a direction that worked for them. And then we didn't take anything, what we created, well, it's being created now, looks nothing like what we created in Midjourney, but it was inspired by it because we got to this like, okay, we love this color palette, we love this high end. We took from 3 different things, and they're creating their site based on things that they saw there. But it's all them, it's all net new. And again, it's no different than they would have done if they went looking through books or anything. On the right, you can see, like what would happen if you were working at a soda company and you wanted something simple. You just wanted to see quickly, like, does it work for me? It's not a good website, but you can see like, hey, does it look cool on white? What does it look like? And you can really quickly fast iterate. And that's one of the things I love doing with it. And I think no matter where you are in the design of what you're going to be touching, you're probably going to use AI to some extent. And I think the round one is the place to do it, because it gives you more time for that awesome, fun finessing, making it your own. And you wind up spending less time on things that are going to go in the trash, because unfortunately things go in the trash. I also think character design is really fun. Like these are some things, the guys on the left are literally things I want to create, these little donuts. I would love to take some of those just as is and make them real. But if you're working on character design, again, you can iterate like, what do I want somebody to look like? You can do it really quick. And then, I suppose you can take what you have here. I really like that weird like kid werewolf on the bottom. But if I needed a really weird kid werewolf, I'd be inspired by that and then, make it my own. Like I love that he's got 2 different colored eyes and he's kind of a little punk rock, I think punk rock is something I put in the prompt. But, again, it's really cool because you can see this fast iteration. And I think it's more fun and less passive than, like I said, looking through books and things like that. And this is one way I used it for something I was doing. I would create some things in there, and then I would be inspired by the type, and I created these little characters for fake movies, changing eye colors and stuff, and I would pop in making them look like movies, but I was inspired by like the type that it did, and then putting the real words in and making them into like a real, if they were cartoon characters. This is for a project I was doing in my old agency just for fun. So those are some ways to do it. Another way that I think people can use it maybe off the shelf is patterns. It does patterns so well and repeating patterns. These are all 5x5 images that I create, so each of these are 5 Midjourney images by 5 Midjourney images because it's able to tile really well when you put in the tile command. And I have friends that do a lot of retail work. And one of the things they do in retail work is backer paper. And that's like when you look at a display on shelf and you see a pattern, usually a pattern behind it, that's the backer paper. A lot of times when they're doing that, they're buying a stock pattern or a stock image, and they're tiling it. But I was working with a friend on one that looked like soap bubbles and showed them how to do it in here. And they got closer to what they wanted with that than they did with anything that they were finding from stock. So I'm seeing people really bring these patterns into the world. And this could be anything, that's for backer paper. It could be clothes, it could be textiles or anything. It's really pretty cool. And you can take it off the shelf or you can, be inspired to buy it and make it your own. But I do think for retail, this is going to save so much time and allow brands to make it their own instead of going to stock. And then you could just create random weird stuff. And like, I would say if you guys are interested in AR, like this is to me still the sweet spot. I am and always will be an artist. I like creating weird things. I like being able to have a breath. And like, this is the random stuff I create. And I'm part of a community that has little challenges. So that's where some of these are coming from. But really, the beauty of it is you can make anything. And you can have things that, again, like to me, sometimes the things that work are the mistakes. So that woman in the upper right with the clownfish, that actually came because I copied a prompt and then changed some words, but I didn't change enough words. So I still got the fish and I got the person, and total mistake. And then I went and finessed that prompt to get like better and better stuff. And I created that, and I would have literally never thought about that, but that was a mistake. Another one that I love here is the one on the bottom, second from the right, the glitched one. What I literally did is I collect glitched JPEGs that I have, and I took a glitched JPEG that I had, and I took a photo of a bridge, and I put them together. And my prompt was glitched JPEG because one thing you can do is upload your own images and be inspired by that, and it created this image. And I will say, while Midjourney, we already know that it defaults to women. The glitched image had a picture of my wife in it, and she's blonde and had short hair in it. So I think that it was actually able to read her image, even though it was very glitched and very hard to read. She was faintly in there. So I think it was kind of reading it, which I think is fascinating. But you can create anything you want. And I think that's what I want to leave you with on this. It's my last slide. But if you're playing with it, like, have fun. And I would say do play with it because it's fun and it's not to be feared. And maybe you do bring it into your process. I do think at some point you will bring your process. Right now, there's a plugin for Photoshop where you can bring stable diffusion into Photoshop. And my gut is Adobe will buy somebody or make something so you can do whatever you want, and so it'll be in there. So I think the sooner you get to playing with this and sooner you learn how to do it, the better. But also you'll be there for the creation, and you'll learn how to get your own style and how to make it part of your process instead of something that's taken away your process. So that's what I got. This is where you can find me. We'll talk more. Like, I'll open this up to questions. And like I said, if we have time and you guys want to play, I will go into Midjourney, and you can like literally just in the chat tell me what to make. And I can make them, or I could break down how you do prompts. I'm not sure how much people have played with. But if you guys want to find me anywhere, the first two are my Instagrams. But if you guys want to contact me or anything, that's what the other things are. So that's the Prezzo. You can go to how do you do? I use there's ton. I would honestly just Google There's Dream Cafe, Dream Studio is one I do. And so what is it? beta.dreamstudio.ai. You're gonna have to log in, with who you are, and then sorry, I'm gonna put the chat over here, and then you literally just put like this is already in there. They on the bottom they want to start you with something so you can do it. They call it Dream, and then you literally just hit Dream, and it's gonna create images for you. This one, what is it? A Dream of a Distant Galaxy concept art map padding painting HQ. HQ I think is high quality 4K. This is using the stable diffusion model. You can see that here, and you can use various stable diffusion models. I don't play as much with stable diffusion. I think it defaults to 1.5 because it's the most stable of them. You can play with heights. You can put any image you want in there. Another one I go to is called Night Cafe. It's very much the same. I was doing something. This is my test on people, and I was doing something for test, but this one's a little bit more confusing. You can go to Dolly, which is openai.com, Dolly 2. I guess they moved where it is. And this has let's take that same thing, prompt, and literally you just put a prompt in. All these you're gonna have to sign into. None of them are free. They're all going to give you some credits in the beginning to play with the product for free. Then they're going to want money. Everybody wants money. But yeah, all you literally do is just like put some words in. But with Midjourney, if you do want to get into Midjourney, first thing you need is an account on Discord. Then you go to midjourney.com. I'm bummed that it logged me in. Again, Discord account you need, and then you're going to get a page like this, and it's going to say you don't need to join the beta. I don't know why they still have that, or maybe sorry, you do need to join the beta, although it's no longer. I guess technically they're calling it a beta. No, it already knows that I'm in here. You're going to want to click that. Join the beta, and it's going to ask you to sign up. Unfortunately, I'm already logged into Discord, so it's forwarding me over to Discord. But that's where you want to go is Midjourney. And this is so just so you know, so this is what Midjourney looks like. It's because you have to use Discord. I'll show you like kind of the whole thing for those who haven't done it. When you play with Midjourney, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to be dumped into this, which is the Midjourney Discord. It is it's great because it has so much stuff in it, but to me, it's an absolute mess, and I don't know where to start. You're gonna have rooms that you can start trading in. This is based on how many images you made. This is my second account. My other has like 50,000. This is, there's great things. There's showcases. There's daily themes that you can participate in. There's these threads. There's something in here, prompt FAQs if you want to know how to like build some stuff, and what words to add. So there's great information in here, but to me, this is overwhelming. So what I do, and I have to move everybody here, what I do and what I tell people to do is find the Midjourney bot on the right, or go into anything that you can type into and do /info. And the reason /info is because it doesn't give you much. Oh, but see, it flew by. And it's literally, I'm just trying to get, actually, you didn't even need that. I'm just trying to get the Midjourney bot to see it. So if you don't see it on the right, literally go into anywhere where you see the Midjourney bot, and then you're going to click on it and send it a message. I need to move this. So I'm going to send it a message. Hi. And now what that does is it brings me to my DMs. in Discord, and now I could DM the Midjourney bot. And what that means is I can create in there without all that noise. So this is how I tell people to get into it. You can create your own server too, which is what you saw, which I showed you earlier. These are servers that I created. But if you just want to start playing with Midjourney and you're just getting into it, once you get kicked into the Midjourney Discord, find the bot, message him. And the reason I say to message, I guess it's not, it's a section, so it's a bot. Message to the bot. The reason I say to message it is because then it's going to go straight to that direct message thread, so you don't have to find it. You're going to click imagine. You're going to click / and then you want to put in imagine. It winds up being one of the first things up here, so I click on that, and then I put anything I want to do in here. And the reason I said David Harbour is it makes him very well. So David Harbour wearing a top hat. And then I'm going to put all that stuff at the end that I had before. The reason I'm doing that is it's going to wind up looking more photographic. You don't really even need to use that for him. It comes out very photographic because I did a test on him. Then what I'm doing after that is I wanted any image you create in Midjourney, it's going to give you squares if you don't change the aspect ratio. So if you want to change the aspect ratio, the way you do that is by hitting AR for aspect ratio and then a space. And then you put whatever you want your aspect ratio to be. You're doing 3 to 4. And then you hit enter. Hold on, I'm gonna make sure I'm fast. I don't think I'm on the fast mode, so it might take a second to make. But these are gonna, you're gonna see like these are gonna look like him. And so that's kind of scary because now I can take that and I can probably deep fake it, or I can make him look stupid or silly or put him into some situation that isn't, this is it being made. And this is what I was talking to you about. It looks at the image, and then it looks at what you asked it for, looks at it, and keeps doing that and keeps making from each of those iterations, each of those steps you saw. It was looking at the image that looking at the words that I asked it to make and looking at what was before, which starts as a seed and then making it. So I don't know why he's got like tattoos here, but like it looks like him and I can get there. Top Hat made it more shadowy than I thought, but I don't know, it's scary. And with Stable Diffusion, it even gets scarier because I can model me. I know a guy who models himself and then puts himself in different situations, so that's fun, right? I could also model Wesley, and then I could put him in any situation I want if I have enough photos of him, and that's scary. So, and I don't know what that's why I don't know how you stop it, especially with Stable Diffusion, because it's open source and you can do your own modeling. And by modeling, I mean is like the way I would do that is I would upload a ton of photos of myself so it knows who I am, and then I could make myself do anything because now it knows who I am and what I look like from every side, right? You can't model in Midjourney, but yeah, it's scary, and that's why I think we need to watermark these images. Thank you, and thank you everyone for the time. Like I said, I love talking about this, so you guys are interested, and you saw my things at the end. I'll pop them up. Like if you have any questions, let me know. I always chat about it too much. I'm always open for chatting about it. And I would say that like if you are interested in this, Midjourney has a free trial. It gets you something only like 25 images, and they go super quick. But it's fun to play with. Yeah, do it. Just play. At least get your 25, and then if you never want to touch it again, cool. But at least burn through those.